Hello, my name's Matt from the Lumitime.
Hello, I am Shieldsy from Evocatus.
And welcome to the Tomb of Lime podcast. It is episode 17. We are, of course, continuing our track by track of Grand False Karass. We are up to the Cancer of Excess. And we're also going to be exploring heavy metal grandeur.
Cheers.
Cheers. I did give you a clue that we might be talking about grandeur in music, and because I think that's probably because on this song I wanted to do a bit of a epic feel, let's say.
Okay, that was the outset.
Yeah. If I was going to pick a theme or whatever that we were going for, that would be it. Cool. So I gave you that, the clue that what we'd be talking about.
Yeah, first time for everything.
Now I'm going to still spring something that I didn't plan. Couldn't plan for on you as well.
Good. What a surprise!
Yeah. And that's this. So I've been thinking about after having reviews and having the album released and so on about what people have been saying and so on and so on. And I realized that I would say that the Loom of Time and Evocatus their last album was probably, I'm going to say this is probably the strongest material that we've done so far.
You'd like to think so, yeah.
So what we're looking at is we've just released our best album, let's say. Best album ever, top of the game.
Always getting better.
Now, well, that's the question, all right? How does one top their best album ever? Is there a secret technique? So one thing I think about is when it comes to other bands, when they've released a great album and you're like, wow, this is the top of their game. How could they ever top this? And then somehow they do.
They top it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or conversely, the other thing that I've seen is they'll go down for a while because they've, I don't know, not
lost their way,
or something, or whatever it was that they thought they were doing right on the album that they got right. They probably felt like they were continuing with it, but they weren't.
They chased the wrong thing.
But then they have a comeback. They have a return to form.
Oh yeah,
and they've learned the lessons from going down into the depths of hell itself, for example, and then rising again up the other side. We'll be specific. Does Evocatus have a vision for what it wants to do differently than what it's done so far, do you think?
I'll tell you what, and it's something that we probably don't talk about enough, is like our overall vision or what we're hoping to achieve for, the next record, for example. We don't talk enough about the next record. I don't really know why.
It's because you're busy with the current one or something?
Well, I wouldn't be a bit rich to say we're busy with the current one. That was 2 years ago. So, but we play shows. We're all busy in our own lives in our own right. But what we would like to do, and we do talk about, is like we should get together more and have just jam sessions with no particular aim, just to like smash everything together and see what comes out.
So that might be
we don't do that.
To be more organic or collaborative or something like that.
So typically not that good at collaborative efforts to date. I think Vaughn and Cal are trying more of that. Yep. Particularly because they don't live very far away from each other.
Yep.
So they can get together, I guess, the two of them more often than everyone else. But yeah, so in terms of vision, some stuff that we have thrown around is trying to make some stuff that's more epic.
Yeah.
And also more technical.
Yep.
But I would say that with some of the influences that we have, or maybe not so much influences, but music that we just listen to that we'd like to be influenced by.
Okay, yeah.
Is just that. Stuff that we listen to is more epic, and stuff that we listen to is more technical, and it's kind of erring in both of those directions, I think.
Okay.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff we like, right?
Yes.
It'd be nice to be able to make the stuff that you like to listen to.
Yes.
Rather than just making what you think it's going to be and however it turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess maybe that's the goal.
Maybe that is a way in which bands can lose their way, is that they start thinking more about not just making music that they would want to listen to, but, and that could that be because of feedback from the fans? Like if the fans, if you get reviews on your album and they say, we really like this stuff about your music, you're like, oh, well, we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
No matter how we feel about it.
We played a show last week.
Oh, yeah.
Since the last episode.
Sure.
In Newcastle, home crowd.
Yep.
We closed the night, so we played after the headline touring band.
Yep.
Still pretty good, thanks Newcastle for sticking around, hanging out with Evocatus on a school night.
Yeah.
And a comment from a punter, a mate of ours, after the show, who'd seen us play one of our new songs. So a song that's coming up on the next record. New. So we've been playing it live a bunch of times this year, and we're getting good at it. Probably our favourite song to play.
Yeah, okay.
It has a number of quote unquote breakdowns, and this guy. Shout out to Alex if you're watching. He came to me after the show and he said, "Man, you guys are a metalcore band now. You play metalcore," because there was definitely breakdowns in there. What is it? It's either before or after the chorus, but like that, it's real. You can really get into it, and it kind of it makes you do these ones.
Yes. Yep.
I don't mind. I don't care. You can label it whatever you want. But I'd never really considered it metalcore, and maybe that was an influence from Adam, who has had a lot more involvement in writing the drums.
Yep.
And taking the drums that may have been laid out by Vaughan or whoever's, slapped the song together. And Adam's made it his own, and the influences have come from his, punk and hardcore upbringings.
Yes, I would not be surprised if the riff, when originally written, let's say, may not have been intended to be a breakdown.
No.
But it was, maybe perhaps in the old days we just used to call them mosh riffs or something.
Or whatever they were called. Yeah. But anyway, it's easy to label it a breakdown. Yeah. Everyone knows what a breakdown sounds like. And anyway, so this song has got some definite breakdowns, and they're so heavy.
Yeah.
And they're, don't get me wrong, we like it. Even if you're going to put a label on it or whatever and say metalcore song. Cool, man, whatever. It's a great song, and it's going to fit with the rest of the record, and thematically it's going to fit with the rest of Evocatus's back catalogue anyway.
Yeah, because I can think now back on Evocatus's back catalogue where there have been places where kind of it slows down, gets real heavy.
Yeah.
Just everything cuts out, and it focuses on just banging your head and so on.
Yeah.
I would never have called it a breakdown, almost because of the suburbs that surround it. Its situation in the song. But now that I think about it, if you were honing that part of your style into something specific, then you could call it a breakdown. And especially if Adam accentuates those features.
He can accentuate it with the drums the same as Steve did with the drums in Nile Reich.
Right.
You can change the drums and make it.
Yeah.
Change it from metalcore to black metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just by changing the big boom tish kind of to blasts.
Yes. Yeah.
But even before, it's in the song, old song, Tour of Duty. I'm not sure if you remember playing that with us, but it's an out and out thrash song, like Megadeth, Metallica, Worship song in its structure, but it has a breakdown, and it's undeniably a breakdown. It's got a bit where everyone just takes a step forward and just bangs your head, there's nothing else that can be said for it.
Talking about that as if at some point it became illegal to do in heavy metal. It was
yeah, it's a weird, we talked about subgenres before, and with subgenres comes gatekeeping and elitism and whatnot. Whatever, man. It doesn't matter. It's more so just a way to explain how something sounds without having heard it yet.
Before the breakdown became whatever it is, we still had riffs that were heavy and slow and you could bang your head to. 100%. And if you put them in an otherwise not heavy and slow song, then it is a breakdown, And I believe that the breakdown as a thing predates even heavy music by many decades. I haven't heard this new Evocatus song, so I can't pass judgment here. I don't think so.
I can send you a crude demo. But we're much better at it live than the demo is.
Okay. When is your next live gig? It would be the
end of November.
Yeah, it would be your
sold out at the Metro.
And you're playing this new tune there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We even got a T-shirt for the song.
Oh, okay.
Specific to that song.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's coming.
Okay.
It's on its way.
Okay. All right. So, I certainly didn't expect this conversation to go this way when you're talking about Evocatus's plans for the future. And so more breakdowns.
Looking to get more epic anyway, to keep back on get the train back on the rails here.
Yeah.
Because we've got epic influences as well.
Oh yeah.
You know, we love when you mentioned that we're going to talk about epic tonight. Straight away I thought Winter Sun.
Okay.
Winter Sun is like the definition of epic for me.
Yep.
And whether or not it's like Yari's songwriting, and I thought about it for a sec. I thought, well, if I talk about Winter Sun, Matt's going to make me talk about it and kind of unpack why I think it's epic, especially because of all the Discord chat, you know, Jason amongst others, you know, talking all these examples and why it's epic and blah, blah, blah. I thought, I don't know, Winter Sun's epic.
I remember when Winter Sun first became a thing, when the internet was in an earlier age of the internet. On their website they had I don't know, it was like almost an Excel table, and it had clips from the album, and you could hit play and it would play like 10 seconds of the album, and it had them filed. He had them in two sections. One was epic stuff and one was like thrashy heavy stuff or
metal
something.
stuff.
Yeah, so you could click a couple of them and get little samples from from the self-titled album. Yeah, it didn't have another title. It was self-titled.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it.
And so he had separated parts of his music into epic and, I don't know, not epic, whatever the opposite is. So obviously he realized that there was an epic feel that he was probably going for.
Yeah.
It was no accident that he made an epic album here. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but...
And it went full scale in time one, like just absolutely off the charts in terms of epicness.
Yes.
From the first record. But yeah, like all of the insanely intricate orchestral stuff, all the ambient stuff that's, you know, kind of lays under everything else throughout every song, all the songs.
So yeah, one thing I knew would come up when we're talking about epic music is orchestral stuff.
Oh yeah.
And
just sounds so big.
In the Discord, I don't know how many of the bands that we looked at had orchestral parts as part of their epicness, but it might have been close to 100%, but I don't think it was 100%. I don't think Sabaton is particularly orchestral, but they can still write something that's epic.
Epic, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so yes, orchestral stuff. That is definitely a place where you can make something have an epic feel.
Yeah.
But is it possible to have epic music without orchestral stuff?
Yep, it sure is.
Okay.
I think about, and it was from the last episode, from the Crux episode, talking about the outro.
Yep.
That's an epic outro. No orchestral stuff there, just like a ever repeating riff that slightly evolves every 4 bars or whatever.
Yep.
The drums change, the guitar changes slightly. It's got that lead that's just relentless. Because
it's like 4 separate guitars. It's got quite a lot of layers. Sure. So I'm wondering if almost...
it could just be that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you really describe how many layers you've got as contributing to it, because I don't want to try to avoid the word complexity, because that kind of sounds like technicality. But look, if we want to talk about complexity of arrangement, having a grand arrangement, an arrangement with lots of parts.
Yeah, but it can't. It's got to be arranged in a certain way though for it to be epic. It's not like you can just smash a bunch of old stuff in there because it will just turn to mud, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be done right. And yeah, I think if you got a build up, like a steady build up,
yes,
to like a climax.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
An epic thing in a lot of ways. If you get to a place of bigness, a big thing, you know. I think epic might even just mean big. Like when you talk about an epic story or film, it might just be, it goes for a long time. You know, the ancient Greek epics and so on. It's just that when it's an epic poem, it's just a long poem, right? So there's something almost about size when we're talking about epic, right? And I think by using a build-up in your music, you can... If you build it up high enough, then you can get maybe that epic feel.
It's a sense of size, yeah.
And I guess, in a way, that's something to do with dynamics, because if you're all big all the time, it may not get that feeling, if you know what I mean. So maybe part of epicness, which, again, is not a word, grandeur or whatever, is necessarily has something to do with dynamics as well. So you can only make it feel really epic if you can bring it down low, if you know what I mean. Something like that.
Lateralis has that in Parabole going into Parabola.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And the way the dynamics, you know, plays on that song throughout, where it dives right down and then, you know, smashes back in again.
See, I wanted to say that thrash feels like a more down-to-earth, in-your-face kind of thing. And so it doesn't perhaps lend itself to the epic tag because and that's got a certain speed to it. And I was wondering if speed itself had something to do with epicness, because it does feel like sometimes when something's fast and then you go to something slow, like your new breakdowns or whatever, that can feel more epic. Maybe
just dynamics in speed
as well.
Yeah.
So orchestrations, we've got sort of complexity of arrangement, dynamics. All of these things seem to contribute to this feeling. Like there's a band, Moon Sorrow. They do sometimes use orchestral stuff, but it's certainly the case that even when there's no orchestral stuff going on, they still sound very, very epic. And one of the things I was thinking about there was when I was talking about the size of things, it seems like if you put a whole bunch of delay and have your drums really boomy and sound like they're in a cavern or whatever, that can give you that sense of, I think, physical size. It seems like
post metal.
Yeah.
Just buckets of reverb, buckets of delay.
Yeah.
And tremolo picking, and then that's pretty much it. That's you're doing it. If that's all you've got, that's it's a simple formula. But it sounds huge though.
Yeah.
Epic, like cavernous.
Yes, yeah. So again, literal description of size, right?
Yeah.
I was wondering myself, for the future of the limbo time, aside from this song, have it going for an epic feel that we're talking about, that whether I should be moving in an epic direction in a more general sense. Keep of Kalessin are an example of a band that I think have been trying to outdo epicness with each album. And on their latest album, it is the most epic, but it's also almost the least black metal. So they were pretty much straight up black metal in the beginning, maybe with some progressive tendencies.
Okay, yeah.
And as they went on, they've gotten more epic and less black metal. Still blast and stuff, but it's just more melodic and focuses on the epic. And I admit, when I first heard that record, it kind of turned me off. I'm like, where's that stuff I like?
What are they doing? Yeah.
But when you look at it on its own terms, as it were, they nailed what they were going for. Back to my initial question, I was trying to work out whether traveling in an epic direction is a way that a band moves from strength to strength, or whether someone can go epic but lose their way and lose what it is that they had or whatever, when you're going.
Yeah, I don't know, other than the example that you just gave where, you're expecting something that you didn't get because the band was trying to be epic and it lost that, whatever black metal element it had.
Yeah, I know that Blind Guardian have quite a long series of epic albums now. But in the beginning, they were kind of just sort of speed metal with a few maybe extra vocal layers for that Queen influence or whatever. And I have no doubt that the people who were just into the thrash and the speed metal side of things, perhaps listening to that stuff, wouldn't be as interested in what they're doing now.
Well, that's a real good example. Like, what about Metallica? So you've got Kill 'Em All, out and out, crusty thrash metal record. And then even on the next record for Ride the Lightning.
Yep.
And you've got songs like...
For Whom the Bell Tolls is pretty epic.
Yeah,
actually.
That's an epic song.
Is Cthulhu on?
Yeah, Cthulhu. So my first introduction to Cthulhu was from S&M. That's going to go. Is it going to go?
It'll go. Continue.
We'll just try to forget about that. Yours.
Okay, cheers everyone. Cheers.
Yay. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing. Happy 17th episode. Man, that was a lot more violent than I expected it to be.
Not getting your bond back. No, it's all right.
All right.
And then Masters of Puppets came out after that, and it had songs like Orion. Sorry, I was talking about Cthulhu. The first time I heard that was from S&M. So it was extra epic. Okay. And it sounded like it was always supposed to be like that. And then I heard the regular version and it was just less epic, but it didn't have a, orchestra up its ass.
Yeah, S&M is definitely an epic an album.
Not all the songs worked. Yeah, I think same here, Jace. S&M's second record I ever got. I think maybe, and I'm okay to admit, I was young, but I think the Black Album I ended up with first in my collection. That's probably in like the first handful of CDs that I got out of anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, S&M was one of them, and I learnt all those songs, or how they went anyway. In terms of originality, the S&M version was the real version.
Yeah,
like, that's all I knew.
I think it might have been the first Metallica album that I owned, right? As well. And I think maybe when did that actually release? Maybe it came out at the right time for us when you want to buy the new Metallica thing.
Yeah, I think it was
S&M
99 or something like that.
So I think I had the DVD actually.
Oh, wow. That'd be good. I don't think I've seen that.
You haven't seen it?
No. Calm down. You've never heard Slipknot before.
Well, one of my friends messaged me the other day, after watching the podcast, and he's like, I'm sure I showed you Slipknot on a car drive 15 years ago. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't remember any of it if I do. All right, S&M. Yeah, actually, the DVD was one of the first DVDs I'd seen where you could choose the angle that you wanted to watch. Like,
oh, wow.
So you could go, I want to watch Kirk Hammett. So you go the Kirk Hammett angle and you just watch Kirk Hammett.
The Warcam.
The Warcam. Yep. So maybe that very epic. Now that you mentioned it, like different songs on there worked well and some didn't. Like, what's the song on there that's not on their studio albums? Is it
there
Clover?
Was two. Four-Leaf Clover.
Four-Leaf Clover.
Epic song.
Epic song.
Yeah, really epic song.
Yeah.
And then there was the other one. That I Disappear wasn't on that record, was it?
That was on the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack, which I did own as well on cassette tape.
Less epic.
Yeah.
Epic movie, not an epic song.
I can't remember the movie at all, but
Mission Impossible. The Limp Bizkit.
Yes, that is the Limp Bizkit one. Yes.
Yeah, that was a more epic song than the Metallica one. Quite an epic song.
Yeah, it also had Uncle Crack. Was that Uncle Cracker and the Foo Fighters? And man, I'm pretty sure I listened to that a lot. I must have.
That's showing its age now.
Like how much time would cassette tapes have had left in them that I bought a cassette tape?
I bought a cassette tape around that time. I think I bought Californication.
Oh yeah, okay.
On cassette. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I don't know why. Seemed like a good idea at the time. I already own CDs. It's not like I need it.
Yeah, but how not great were Discmans back in those days? Like,
that's a good point. Yeah. Maybe I was out and about with a tape Walkman because that was more reliable.
Yeah, way more. Of Wolf and Man.
Wolf and Man.
Okay. Again, pretty epic on the S&M version.
Yeah. But then there was S&M songs that didn't quite work, like Fuel or whatever. But all the other songs like, Call of Cthulhu, Wolf, that was huge on that record. And
wait, no, it's called No Leaf Clover, isn't it? No Leaf Clover. I think I said Four Leaf.
That makes way more sense now.
Yeah. And yes, I remember that one being particularly epic. And then maybe going, wow, which album is this on? And it's like, it's not. I think I remember one of the guys in Metallica saying that, they had almost captured the feel of that song on something like Sad But True, but they had never really achieved it until they got No Leaf Clover. Now, we, perhaps I only heard that in its orchestral form, but I dare say that's epic without the orchestra, or maybe not as epic, but it's still got its solid groove and...
But then talking back about old Metallica, the epicness, The Thing That Should Not Be.
Yes.
That's a great record, hey, because of those epic songs.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think, it's possible that those albums would have been kind of maybe boring if all the songs on there had been like those epic ones.
Yeah, but there was variety, right?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is that the speed and complexity of, of Master Puppets or whatever, contrasts with those other songs, makes those epic songs feel epic when they come along.
Yeah, yeah.
It might be the case in like almost films as well, like the ending, the climax is only cathartic if you've had the build up to it and the tension building and so on like that. So it's probably the same in music, and so having all epic all the time maybe isn't the way to go. The solution to an epic feel is something to do with contrast.
Yeah, I guess it could be fatiguing if you've got, there was a good example in the chat actually of Dimmu Borgir, Progenies. Super epic, but I don't know, can the whole record be like that? Probably not.
No, and I don't think they were, because they had their more traditional black metal sounding stuff. Have you seen those guys live?
Yes.
Do you recall whether they have backing tracks for their orchestral stuff or whether they just do it, raw dog it?
Oh, I don't think they raw dog it.
No?
They would not. Yeah. I don't specifically remember, but I can't imagine they'd raw dog it. It was a big production.
Yeah.
It was at Soundwave.
Yeah.
They played in the daylight at Soundwave, which is weird straight away.
Yeah.
In their like big leather jackets and fur and stuff. And like, I think it was halfway through the first song that was just all that was off. Down to their singlets, because it was summer in Sydney.
Yeah.
Horrible time.
My wife was at that Soundwave and I was not.
Yeah.
And she told me that she saw them briefly for a moment and was like, what are they doing?
It was almost like, when they walked out on stage, it was like we're laughing at them. It's like, do they know where they are?
Your aesthetic is not appropriate for the
You're not in Norway anymore.
Yeah.
Even the stuff that we wear on stage now.
Yeah.
That gig the other night, it was so hot.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, those outfits that we've got now. Even though, they're sleeveless or whatever, and I don't know, they're just really hot to wear. It's okay if you've got like a fan or whatever going on, but there was nothing like that.
I seem to recall for the movie Alien, they built them spacesuits and they weren't well ventilated, and all the studio lights were making them almost pass out. So they had to come to the costume people and get them to install fans inside of it. So maybe that's the next step for Evocatus, is to have some ventilation. Yeah. Water cooling. I guess you get beer cooling. I suppose you could just pour liquid all over yourself.
Yeah. Swimming in your own suit.
Okay. Anyway, well, yes, Dimmu Borgir. Obviously, a name that comes to mind when you talk about Epic, because that's what they've sort of built their sound on. Actually, Izan and Emperor, they started off pretty straight black metal, and they had, I would say, epic arrangements, I suppose, because even from the beginning, it's what you might call symphonic black metal, right? They had those symphonic elements in there, but by the time they got to their last album as Emperor, it was very epic and very orchestral and very, very big. And then when Izan split off and began his solo career, he had epic moments, but certainly on his debut solo album, it wasn't nearly as epic feeling, I think, than his last Emperor one, because of the production. It was a lot more rock and roll and stripped back, and maybe just a few keyboards for his strings rather than full orchestral stuff. So,
well, he definitely built that back up. Because the later stuff now is
a lot of the epic stuff that he's doing more recently is not with orchestra, but it is with stuff. It's like synth stuff.
Yeah, it's all like synth wave now.
Yeah. But I mean, when I thought of epic, orchestral is something that came to mind. But synthesizers can do a similar thing. I think about Vangelis.
You do whatever you want.
The sort of soundtrack to Blade Runner and stuff. It's got. It's epic, but there's no orchestra there. It's all synth stuff. So we've said a lot of stuff that is epic, all right? But what ties them together? It's almost like epic is not a thing you can point at, but a collection of things that you can use to build an epic sound. And perhaps you have to have a few of them, or something.
So a few key words that you need to consider if you're going for epic on any project is like build up. Dynamics. Tempo. Like strong considerations for those things. What else we got?
Arrangements.
Layers and arrangements. And just generally making it.
Probably instrumentation is not a bad. It's a way to do it, although you don't necessarily need to do it. I think now Devin Townsend has quite a few epic tunes all across his career. But he's also pretty good at the not epic, speedy, thrashy, angry, down-to-earth stuff as well.
Yeah, real dumb death metal. But he can do, like the epic prog stuff. Deconstruction is really, really epic in terms of like the sound across the spanning of an album.
It's an option, it's something that we could lean into. But I am still a little bit self-conscious and paranoid that if I aim for epic, that I might lose something of what people are enjoying about the current stuff. But I guess you've just got to be careful, attentive, or something like that.
Always have something to ground you.
not to get too overboard.
Be tethered back to something for where, like, don't forget where you've come from.
Yeah, I think one way that so far I've grounded myself in that way is to make sure that there's a version of this song that works as a live song with just a band.
Yeah.
I think maybe if I can hold on to that idea, you'll never get so epic that you've lost something.
That's right. I mean, I listened to some of the backing tracks that we use in Evo that are either on the record or, they're coming out the PA when we play live as well. But we had a backing track issue. We had a stage rig issue at a gig we played, and we just had to raw dog it. Yeah. And it worked. It was fine. But take away the fact that nobody in the crowd gives a shit, right? Yeah. Both the people in the audience who knew what was going on didn't mind, and everyone else was just there for a good time, and we were playing music or whatever.
Yeah.
It worked. It didn't matter. As long as you're not doing nothing while the backing track is playing, that it's just going to be an awkward silence in the middle of a song.
Yeah.
Have something going on. You're going to be okay. That's just adding layers of complexity. I don't necessarily consider the stuff that I'm talking about to be epic as such.
No, okay.
But it's something to think about when you're putting those arrangements together between, the studio and live.
Have you seen these clips of Polyphia or someone where the click track cuts out and the drum tech is there slapping the drummer on the thigh or something?
Yeah. He's doing doing his click track by. Yeah. He's on the ground next to the drummer.
Yeah. I suppose you don't have that luxury of having a tech to go around and slap everyone in time, huh?
We just had to play in time to Adam, and Adam played in time with us, and it was really organic. And I don't know if we played it too fast or too slow, or
is there a too fast or too slow? No, I mean maybe not.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, as long as it's not so fast that you can't physically play it, then probably you're doing all right.
That probably would have pulled us up. Yeah.
Props to Adam again, man. I just if he can do that, if he's got the confidence to pull the song together without the guides, then you've got a good drummer. He's doing the job.
And that's something that we've never practiced. And after that, we said, "Oh man, we got away with that, but will we get away with it again? We need to practice raw dogging."
Yeah.
And we haven't yet.
No.
we should get back to that because undoubtedly it'll happen again.
Yeah. Okay.
We learned the lesson. We know why it went wrong.
Yeah.
So we've got control in place to stop that from happening again. But the USB drive that's got the backing track on it will fry itself or whatever. It just won't work.
Always have redundancies, contingencies, and so on. And I think being able to just play without it is a really great contingency.
Well, that's currently our only contingency. It either works or it doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Cancer of Excess. So at least at the very beginning of the song, I wanted a very epic feel. And that's not because I thought, all right, let's have a beginning that's epic and then just do whatever. It's because it's just how it works. I go, all right, I'll write an epic song, and then I'll at least get through an epic intro before I get distracted, right?
Yeah.
Like it is with all the other genres and all those other things. But I can say that with this song, I think it's the shortest song on the album, if not second shortest. It's
that's
one
not
of the
very epic.
It's one of the shorter ones. But I tell you, it felt. I think it feels long listening to it, at least it does for me. Maybe that's just because of how long I spent working on it. Mm-hmm. It's not that it wasn't working or whatever. I just think getting all the pieces to fit together that I had to get to fit together on this album, and for how short they stick around and never come back, I think I probably put more work into this song, let's say per minute, maybe not overall, I don't know, but at least per minute, than any other song on the album. So to me, this feels like an epic, even though it's shorter than the rest of the songs on the album. Yep. In addition to that epicness feel to it, it is also the case that it has some deliberate epic moments. And especially the beginning, we even have some orchestral elements. There's some horns there. Mm-hmm. I don't think we do much with orchestral stuff after that disappears. That's one of the riffs at the beginning, that... I know, it's just one of those riffs where you write it because you know you want to stand there and look cool and do a heavy riff, right? You write it so that you can play it. You write the kind of music that you want to be able to sort of show off to almost, you know.
Yeah.
That's not always a consideration I give myself. I'm like, oh, I want to play something that feels interesting in my fingers, and then it comes out sounding interesting, but not. You can't just stand there and be cool, right? So I think that riff at the beginning was just so we could, be cool, right? It was cool, but it quickly changes. It goes from that sort of epic into quite a melodic section. It's got extended chords and Jason's melodic vocals. Our relationship with Jason being part of the band was that he did the orchestral one in the Nihilreich days, Admiral on Admiral Daedalus Your Son, and I wrote that basically for him, for his voice, and I didn't write any of the sort of songs on Grand False Karass with him specifically in mind, because I know I wanted to play them live, right? They wanted to be live capable songs, and that would require, if they were written for Jason, that would require Jason on the stage. And it's not that I don't want that. In fact, in future, I probably do want that. Yeah. But at least for now, I wanted, in a pragmatic sense, to be able to take it to the stage without a guy needing to commute from Canberra to be able to do it. Let's say in the studio, I just wasn't thrilled about the vocals that I had performed over that section, and I thought, well, let's give Jason a go. He's here. Yep, exactly.
A moment of clarity.
Yeah. Yep. And so got him in the booth, and he did the thing, and I was like, yep, well, yes. I mean, so it's like he could instantly do what takes me ages to practice and try and whatever. So it was just it was an easy case. And after that, I'm just like, I should have just got him to do all of the melodic vocals on the album. You live and you learn. You live and you learn.
No, you can't give them all away, because you've got a very specific sound as well.
On the parts that I can write for myself to be able to do okay, I can do okay.
Yeah.
But if I want a professional to do a good job, then I know where I can go. It goes from sort of slow and epic to melodic, and then it dives into some quite thrashy black metal there for a bit. And then it starts what I might call almost our instrumental sojourn. So the instrumental sojourn starts with quite a doomy riff with a soaring guitar solo over it. I'm really quite proud of that guitar solo, how it bends up before the rhythm guitar finishes. Then the rhythm guitar comes back in, but the bend is still held, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of atypical for how you arrange that section. But it provides a nice throughput. So it's almost like you build structure with one piece, and then you build structure on top, and then you take the one piece away. This one still hangs, and then you can put the other one down. It's almost like... like the arches that has a capstone in it, capstone, whatever. Well, I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor here.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, there's, even though the part you start with and the part you end up with aren't related, there's something.
The bit in the middle is related to both.
Yeah. Which I'm sure we've done on the album before, but I think it works really well there. And I think that bend that just holds over the doom riff coming back in, I don't think your mind probably expects that to happen, because we're kind of used to lead guitars working with the rhythm guitars, and this one just sort of seems almost independent, or hangs independent for a while, and then comes back into it, and then reconnects with it. And then after that, of course, all the heavy guitars drop out, and we have some totally clean guitars and a saxophone solo. Now, if you remember on our episode about the Shoulders of Giants, I mentioned that in an earlier draft, let's say. Actually, I posted that in the Discord. I don't know if anyone heard it, but
I forgot about that. I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, okay. So in if you listen to that version, you'll hear the guitars totally drop out. Just comes in with clean guitar and some melodic vocals. And I said then that I felt that killed the momentum of the song. And so I got rid of that and put something in that flowed a bit better. But I think on this song, I got it right. I got it to work, right? And one of the ways that I think I got it to work this time was that as the rhythm guitars kind of fade out, the clean guitars come in, then they're ringing out on the same chord, and then they're changing chords. So it sort of melds them together somewhat. And then at the end of that clean section, the guitars the way they come in is very abrupt. It doesn't flow per se, but the change is striking, and it's very dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's actually...
That in itself is epic.
I think actually that might even be slightly odd meter at the end there, so it makes it very unpredictable about when those rhythm guitars are coming back in. So let's talk saxophone solo. Now, originally, I intended it to be a guitar solo, and I think I just gave it to James and said, you do it. But James, for various reasons, could not make it into the studio, and when it was like, all right, well, we'll just do some DI tracks at home or whatever, then in that period of time, he was moving house and he had no computer set up or anything. So at some point, he was just like, all right.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Well, the story was, Jimmy, who plays a lot of the keys and stuff on the album, has a saxophonist friend, and I think I just got talking to him about his friend and whether he might be interested in playing the saxophone, and he put us together, and I contacted the guy, but I never really heard back from him, so I just figured that was a no. Right.
Sure. Yep.
But then I found out that Cassidy Watts, also a saxophonist, was available to do something like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, great, let's ask her to do it, and she did it. But so she comes into the studio, and then my friend Jimmy calls me, and he's like, "Hey, bro, I've got my saxophonist friend. He's got some studio time ready, and he's there to record. And could you send us over that bit that you wanted recorded?" And I'm like, "I already did that part with Cass. Like, what the heck do I do now?" And I'm like,
man.
this is a problem that has solved itself here, because James had to step back from doing the lead part. We already recruited a saxophonist for that other part. Well, let's put a saxophone here. So this on the day that we were kind of doing that in the studio, I think I got those messages. I don't know when I got them, early in the morning or whatever. I got up, started smashing backing track together on my laptop, home away from home while I was staying with my parents near the studio, so that I could send it off to this guy who had that afternoon in the studio or whatever, so he could record his saxophone solo.
So he wasn't there with you?
No.
Oh, wow.
He was I think he's in Sydney.
Okay.
And he had a spot, he had his microphone, whatever. And they wanted me to resend through the part that I already given to Cass. And so I'm like, we're pivoting here, guys. I'll send you something else.
Yeah.
And so I just sent that to him, and I said, just whatever, go for it. Do whatever you want.
See what happens.
Yep. I had no real plan there, and this is what I got sent back, the sax solo that came through. So
that's on the record. Oh my God.
Yeah. So there was no revisions, no back and forth. We just didn't have the time.
Oh, so it's not like he nailed it first time. You just didn't have time. It's like, that'll do.
Yeah. Well,
stick it on.
No. I mean, no. There was no point at which I heard that, and I was like, well, could you do it more like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not like that.
Not necessary. It was straight out of the gate, like spot on.
Yeah. So yes, this was last minute serendipitous happening that almost didn't happen and was never intended to happen, and just this is the kind of chaos that I am absolutely totally happy with in my writing process, and so it was never bad that it was out of my control, in a way. And worst comes to worst, I play a guitar solo there instead. But as it happens, the sax over there just, wow, it really changes the feel of the song and the feel of the section, and really
one of my favorite bits on the whole record.
Yeah. And I know why. Like, it's super atmospheric.
It's so creamy.
Yeah. Yes, it sounds great too. Like the sax really sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't know what studio he was in or where he was or anything. It was all done through Jimmy. So maybe I'll have to ask him about it. Just nailed it on the day, on the fly. Whatever happened, sent it through.
Yeah.
Great.
Amazing.
Great. So
Can't argue with that.
Just Mitta had to slip it in there, and again, he was working with just that section, like he didn't have the song or anything. So the fact that he just holds this note right at the end, and I think when you hear that note held, you can't tell when it's going to come back in, when what's going to happen. But then, bam, smash! A huge wall of guitars comes smashing in, and those guitars have the like HM2 death metal sound after that, because it's kind of a little death doomy sort of section after that. Bit of a groove riff.
And that it's almost like a gallopy kind of riff as well.
Yeah.
And it sounds like an unstoppable horse, like a horse-drawn bulldozer or something like that. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and
I can imagine you could probably pull up a horse-drawn bulldozer, not an unstoppable force at all.
a supernatural ghost horse driven. Yeah,
With
whatever.
a bulldozer blade on it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Someone draw that, please.
There's album art right there for you. There's actually a couple of extra layers, I think, in the rhythm guitars. It's not a lead guitar over that, but it's like extra rhythm melodic guitars over it that just make it a bit more chunky. It's a bit of a gallop, and there's a push and pull with the lead. It's just, I think I was just going for almost a mid-pace death doom type sound, and
you got it.
Coming in after that sax solo, I think it just has quite a strong impact. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to forget trying to be flowing and smooth and whatever. After you've just had this silky, creamy smoothness of the sax solo, it's time to remember that we're a metal band, and we're
here to punish.
Yes, we're here to punish. That's right.
Yeah,
and that is what we did.
Yeah.
I think it goes to basically blasts. Oh no! Hang on. There's a bunch of riffs that have quite complex vocal push and pull arrangements, because you did a lot of the backing vocals for that one. Not even backing vocals, just gang vocals in the foreground here.
Big choiry boy.
Yeah. And I think for this section, by this point in the album, I think I was getting a lot more comfortable with being more creative with vocal arrangements. And so I was really happy to use that push and pull to create dynamics. And the other thing that I like about this section that I really got to work is that there's no real guitar solo in this song, I don't think. There is a bit of one in that Doom section where we were talking about that long held note over the Doom riff. But I think there's quite an intricate lead guitar through this entire section with the gang vocals that is just there tying all the pieces together. And I think if you listen to it by itself, it almost sounds like a guitar solo, but it's a guitar solo underneath in the background, a background guitar solo underneath the vocal arrangements, which are the feature. But it creates melody, and it creates movement, and it flows everything through. And then there's a couple of runs in.
Oh, I can hear it now in my head.
Yeah. And there's some almost slightly bluesy stuff in there, but it flows until the end, until the vocals sort of cut out with just one long scream, and then it's doing a little melodic piece until it comes down again, and the song stops for a moment. What man the bassist himself thus is in the background, and there's like the suckle milk of the breast, and then the blast beats come in quietly, and they fade in. There's an old demo of some pre-loom stuff where I had quite an extended section of quiet blast beats. Now, in Easy Drummer, you can just turn the dial down on the velocity of the blast beats, and you can have quiet blast beats. But I don't think you can actually do that in real life, because the kick drum, I think it's really hard to play the kick drum like that softly. I think I almost challenged Scott to try and do a quiet blast beat once, and it sounded like a loud blast beat, right? But maybe one day I'll work out how to do the quiet blast beat for those
think you can.
touching black metal ballads or something.
If we're going off on that tangent for a second, if you're trying to double kick too fast, you can lose some of the punch that you can do with like just bang, 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 bang. Sure. If you're trying to go too fast, it ends up being like this sort of pitter-patter.
Yes.
And then you do away with all that by running triggers.
Yeah.
And then it's like you've got bangy boys the whole time.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the difference between when you can hear someone who's running triggers, who's not running triggers.
Yep.
Is how heavy heavy is not the right word, how loud it is, how hard it is.
Yeah. And of course, when you're playing slowly, you can wind up every hit as hard as you want to, right? But
exactly.
At a certain speed, you have to...
going as fast as you can, you're hitting as hard as you can, but it's not very hard because you've got to...
Yeah, you don't have that refractory period where you can wind your punch or kick or whatever.
Chime in, drummers.
Yeah, we're two non-drummer people.
Yeah, I got no idea. But it's just an observation I've made. And so you've got the triggers on. It's like, that's what it's supposed to sound like. Now you don't have to kick hard. You just got to kick
hard enough to trigger the trigger.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To push the button.
But I think what we did for that section is...
soft blast.
No, well, yeah, no, we did normal blasts and then faded it in.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know what you do live. Maybe you just blast the whole way through and whatever. But the blasts, having everything drop out but have the blasts fade in, it telegraphs what's coming and smooths out the transition. And those blasts for that end of that song with that sort of melodic choir ending section, they're not meant to be the kind of blast that's punishing you almost. It's more like a consistent rhythm. And, you know, when blasts are done consistently, they can almost create an atmosphere as well, you know. And so we were going for that. Fading the blasts in gives us a nice a transition into that. It makes it more epic, actually, I think.
Yeah.
More epic than down to earth and punishing. And the ending, I think, is quite epic on this song because we've got the... And here's the contrast, is we've got those blasts, and at the very end, when it becomes its most epic feeling, they cut out and do more slow hits, and that definitely adds to that epic feel. And I think a big choir
gives
adds
it more
to the
space.
Yes. Yeah. The choir adds to that epic feel, and the lead guitars. We've got complexity of layers. We've got lots of vocal layers. We've got slowness.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your own solo vocals over the top of that choir as well, which is sounds massive in itself, even though it's just you, with that like wretched scream that you've got going on.
Yeah, and we do another scream held fade out type thing.
It is.
Yeah. Yes, I think at least by the end of the song, we've definitely remembered that it's meant to be epic again, and it's another example of having a very definite ending that feels like an ending, so that there's no question about that you've just ended the song, right?
Oh yeah.
So
that one
still following the
can be a live rock star finish. For sure.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what you do with that live if you don't run the big backing vocals like in the backing track.
I did obviously have a version of the song before I decided to arrange them like that. So they can be done, but not as well. I think this becomes a little difficult to do live certainly in the way that it's done. When I decided to, instead of have the vocals be a straight vocal delivery, I actually sort of intentionally overlapped them, right, to create more interest. So certainly the way it is on the album, I think, is actually difficult to do live. And there might be an alternate version of it, but to be honest, I don't know. Because of that section, that vocal section, we might not take this one to the stage, but there's a few good moments in there that are stage worthy. So maybe,
especially if you can get that guy with a saxophone.
Well, it was hard enough to get him on the album, I guess, let alone to the stage as well. But
yeah, you got him hooked now.
Yeah, maybe
reel him in.
Alternatively, I've thought maybe I could buy a kazoo, and while I'm playing guitar up there, I can...
Close. Yeah, or one of those like neck-mounted harmonicas that you can...
Yeah, but I can't play a harmonica. I could play a kazoo. Maybe I could learn harmonica. Oh, geez. Okay,
I reckon you probably could.
Yeah, well, we'll see. No. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I had a kazoo in my mouth, but it just makes the note that you sing into it, right? Yeah.
Why not both?
Why not both? Right, yeah, a kazoo attached to a harmonica.
Well, no, yeah, if you are singing the note that you want into the kazoo, you've still got to be singing your part too. Make Brad do it. I bet Brad can play the harmonica.
You're probably right. Whether he would, though.
Yeah, give him a break from playing the bass for a second. Poor fella. Too busy.
Yeah, well, I should write a part that's just open B for a bit and harmonica solo.
It doesn't matter if you've written it or not. That's what he's playing. He'll tell you that. It's not that funny.
I will talk a bit about the lyrics here. So this one is a bit like environmentalist focus, I think. I think I mentioned in The Depths of Hell itself that it was almost libertarian, almost right-leaning there. Yeah. But by the time we've gotten to the crux of our salvation, which is about taking care of the earth instead of racking off into space, and this one, which is about global inequality and stuff like this, we've swung the pendulum over to the left-hand side politically. Yeah. So we've got some balance there. Sadly, if all the lefties listened to the first track and went, they would have never gotten this far. But, I don't think anyone's listening that intently.
You tricked me.
Tricked again, yep. Yeah. And yes, that's right. All the libertarians who were listening and got to track 6 or 7 and be like, I've been fooled. Anyway. So one of the interesting things that has been observed about global inequality is that in certain ways it's hurting both the needy and the haves and the have-nots, in that people without food are obviously starving, malnourished, whatever, and the people with too much are dying of all these, diabetes and cholesterol and stuff. So it seems like inequality is a double-edged sword, and that it cuts both ways in a way. And so there was just a bunch of stuff that I learned about as I was learning about the world and animal agriculture and all this stuff, and I just felt compelled to put these angry things into a song, because I think it would work out. When I looked at the stats, although it's been a while since I did, so it might have changed or I might just be wrong, but it was something like a third of the world's crops that are grown are used in animal feed, and it reduces the yield of usable food by something between 2 and 15 times. Like, it takes 2 or 4 kilos of grain to make 1 kilo of meat or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, but the majority of these crops are grown in countries where we have large starving populations, and they're exported from the poor countries to the rich ones.
To feed cattle.
Yeah. It's because basically the rich countries can outbid the locals for their own crops. And so the farmers who are growing them can earn more by selling it out of their own country. So, and
then themselves starving.
Yeah, well, that's right. The countries, it might have been the 4 or 8 countries or whatever, with the largest starving populations in the world, are net exporters of food. Okay? And then the West, in their, donation programs, are sending rice and stuff over to them to feed them, even though they're growing the food. There's a lot of stuff going on here it seems almost ironically crazy. Okay. And
it's cruel irony.
Yes, it's a cruel irony. And then we're consuming so much of this stuff that it's causing health problems in our countries. It just, the irony was too great, and it was fertile ground to do a song about it. So I don't think there's any trickiness to the lyrics there. I think they're pretty straightforward. There's some poetic metaphors, something like the hanging gardens of corpses and tombs made of the dead themselves. The interrelationship between nations and countries and economics and politics is all just really weird. Yeah, and it's almost like the truth is stranger than fiction oftentimes when you go to look at it. It's a good, I think there's some legitimate reasons to feel angry about things, and so that's good material for writing an angry song that you can do. So I mean, that's all in there. I don't think there's anything funny or tricky about it. It's just a pretty much straight up look at how silly this is. Exposing an issue, I suppose. So we've had some left-leaning stuff, we've had some right-leaning stuff. It goes all over the place. In this case, I suppose, a lot of the stuff I've been exploring is not stuff that aligns with my own beliefs. And I don't know whether to say this about this song either. I'm not super well educated. I'm trying to be, but, as you learn this stuff, you learn stuff. I guess that's the idea anyway. So it's stuff that it's more about being aware and looking at the evidence, and I guess encouraging people to do that, to look at the evidence and to understand and to weigh and to weigh it up and see what's going on. So look, awareness for awareness, that's almost the goal there. Yeah, there's a charity that appears to be pretty good called the Hunger Project, and rather than just, hey, let's send food overseas, it's more about using money to help people set up businesses and farms and things in the places they are and empower people. So I think that again, I'll take advice. I hear what you're saying, and I think that, to my understanding, stuff like that is correct. But I'm sure there's a lot of complexity going on with all these things. Sometimes it's overwhelming to think about all the stuff that's going on in the world and how small one person is and all of those issues that are going on. But I can't help but feel that awareness and an effort to understand could at least help take things in the right direction.
It won't make it worse, right?
So, at the very least, we get back to that Nietzschean idea of being a stepping stone to something greater, right?
Yeah.
So, hopefully this song has some minuscule incremental effect and helps point things in the right direction. But yeah, that's the cancer of excess. That's what I got to say. So yeah, I think it is an epic feeling song, or has moments of epic feeling, perhaps more deliberately than elsewhere on the album. And probably because of that totally clean section, is one of the most dynamic songs on the album. And I think having that saxophone solo in there, it was never meant to be the unique thing that stands out about the song, because it wasn't written in there. But now it is definitely the unique thing that stands out for that song. So and no complaints. Like,
not at all.
Like, should I beat myself up over not having come up with that earlier for myself or whatever? I mean, no. I mean, now there's 2 songs with saxophone on them on the album.
Stick it in your back pocket for next time.
Yeah. If anything, it's like it's good that it shows that we can be sort of malleable and adapt to things as they come along, and to just take something that was never intended to be put in there and slap it in there. That's the kind of anarchy in the songwriting that I actually like. I love it. So I'm actually really happy.
Bagpipes for the next record.
Yeah. Do you know any bagpipe players?
Oh, we're in Aberdeen, man. We'll find someone.
Yes, actually, now that you say that, I probably know a few bagpipe players. I just don't know that they're bagpipe players.
Oh, Brad would have bagpipes for sure.
Hey, if you've got a kilt, I mean, it's just one step away.
It just comes with it, right?
Yeah.
What's this pipe for? Kilt blows up.
The original bagpipes.
You're going to swing it there on the last day of recording. You're just going to record it down in Canberra and send it up.
Yep.
I hadn't written this part. This part was actually supposed to be for an accordion, but bagpipes will do. Send it on up. Our
drummer broke his leg, and we need something to do blast beats. Don't worry, we got bagpipes. It's basically the same.
It's basically the same. Cool. I'm all for more interesting stuff.
All right, let's bring it full circle now.
Yeah.
That's a direction you can go. And, and I think maybe looking at the reviews that we got, a lot of the guys that did like stuff about the album liked that there was interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's if that's what I've done well so far, then it might be important for me to try and hold on to that kind of thing.
Hold on to it. Maybe, don't take it too far, but hold on to it at least.
Oh no, I was more worried about losing it in favor of doing something.
Oh yeah,
something else. Like
I think you're okay.
You were worried about me going too far with the interesting stuff, huh? Yeah,
yeah.
I guess it's a
keep
danger.
Keep the guitars in it. Keep the guitars. Keep the blast beats. Keep the screaming.
Yeah, all right. I mean, you say keep the guitars and keep the blast beats, but we've got a ballad coming up in one of the song's time, which maybe might be too weird for Shieldsy. Apparently, no. We'll
it's
find
not.
out. No,
it's not too weird.
It's not. Spoiler alert. It's not. Too
not
weird.
Even a ballad. Come on, man. It's just not the same as the other ones.
Yeah. Okay.
You talked before about right back at the start about how does a band or an artist put together something that is the pinnacle, and then you build on that. It's what Archspire did with their last record, where the record before that was everyone thought, oh man, this is the best thing ever.
Yep.
You can't top this.
Yep.
And then they went and did, the new one is absolutely incredible. That's what they were going for. And the aim, or how to do that, was to take all of the stuff that you were already good at and delve deeper into each of those things.
Yeah, yep.
That's how they explained it.
Yep.
Okay. So I feel like that's something that you could, pursue in your next thing. Is you've got these interesting things. Okay, let's dive deeper into each of those elements.
Yeah. Okay.
While still being grounded back in the middle with that classic loom sound.
Now that you mentioned Archspire and could have reminded me of Tech Death. One band that I noticed has increased the amount of kind of epic elements that we've been talking about is psychroptic.
Oh,
now, if you think about the album progression, they put out a self-titled one, right? With the white cover and the red things. I think that's sort of started where they started introducing more melodic kind of vocals, and by the album after that and the album after that, it's almost choirs and there's some female vocalists and stuff. I think that those elements are adding epic feel to their tech death. Even though they've retained their tech death sort of stuff, it does certainly feel like epicness was added. Like that's, if I was going to point to something, it's epicness that has brought them along in that direction. There's something about epicness. I mean, again, we're talking about something that's not a word here. Grandeur, that was the one word I wanted to use, but I think people intuitively know what epicness means more than grandeur when it comes to music, even though it's not a word. But you know what I mean, right? And I think maybe epicness is a way to progress. You know, here's to bring up a metaphor from cinema. The original Star Trek series was often goofy and quite silly and humorous and lighthearted and so on. And then they moved from the small screen to the big screen, and then they brought out the Star Trek, the motion picture. And some of the things that even the sort of cast complained about that movie and about not liking it is that they felt it was too serious, that it wasn't in keeping with the tone of the show, right? That was a criticism that they levied about it. But I loved the motion picture, and I think it was definitely the right step for that thing, because to go from the small screen to the big screen, they had to up the stakes, as it were. It became more serious, right? So, you know, even though they didn't feel like it was in keeping with the tone of the series, I think making it grander, more epic, more serious actually really worked out.
It would have done them a disservice to not do that.
Yeah.
If they just did the dumb TV show in the cinema.
In a grander scale, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't think too many people agree with me, and they did sillier movies as they went on, but at least in my mind, adding grandeur is a way to level up, in a way, to make things have more weight. I mean, look, there's lots of reasons you might want to go epic, and I think it is one way of making progress as a band, and I think you can see that in a lot of bands, not all of them, and sometimes it's good to come back down to earth if you've gone too far. That is also true. But grandeur is definitely something that, when used right and at the right time and in the right amount, I would say, is really, really effective. And you know, if it's almost like whatever metal genre you're in, if you take a moment, even if it's one song and one moment on the album, to go really grand, it'll often be, you know, Punter's favorite
the part that people remember.
Oh, I'm just thinking now, Cattle Decapitation's latest album, Death Atlas, right? They've been quite a down-to-earth death metal act, but this one was a lot more grand, as it were. It had a lot more epic moments and arrangements and so on. So now that I think about it, there's a lot of examples of grandeur being a way to move forward as a band. So I mean, look, I'll think about it. We'll all think about it. And there's a lot of ways to do it, and there's a lot of considerations. But that was perhaps a more interesting discussion than I thought it would end up being, because I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with that. Like, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to come up with a band that released their best album and then made it their second best album by releasing an even better one or whatever. But the way bands progress and change is really interesting to me. It's interesting to see what's deliberate and what techniques they use and to analyze it. And
I really love too, and that's how I got the stuff from about Archspire, is because they do the behind the scenes video, like the making of blah blah blah. Similar to what you did for your studio diaries. So I'll post some links up in the Discord.
Cool.
Because they're really entertaining. So those guys and Rivers of Nile do it for each of their records as well. Okay. Oh, so good. Yeah, those guys are geniuses. Yeah.
I'd be really keen to see that. Those behind the scenes. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. I've been watching one recently of I'm partway through the Porcupine Tree ones, and they're pretty interesting as well, because they're another band that you can tell really cares about their sound. And so the lengths they go to with their the studios and their gear and equipment and doing all this stuff. And it's almost, you can tell sometimes when they have a strong philosophy of what they want out of it. It's not just they turned up, paid some money and played their instruments and left,
Yeah.
I just love seeing that stuff because sometimes you can't put your finger on why something sounds a certain way or what's different about it or whatever. And then you see what they've done and you're going, aha, I understand.
Yeah. Very good.
Very good. Anyway, cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Epic
everyone,
episode.
for hanging out. Yeah, epic episode. Yeah.